Hi everyone, Tuggles here, and I just wanted to go into some things. I don't know yet how many know that I'll be doing a lot of different variant of videos, but this one in particular is one that I need to let you know. I'm very Christian. I have no judgment against anybody. I am a born again Christian. I don't pick a denomination. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. Um, and I do believe that there's something better and something bigger beyond all of this. So my stuff's going to kind of influx a little bit in different things. So don't um, don't assume it's just going to be one thing or the other. But most of my friends know me as sort of the uplifter and the person that keeps them from feeling like things are hopeless or helpless or like whatever they're doing is continually wrong. I have a lot of friends that have been told since they were very little that everything they say and do is wrong. Everything that they are is wrong, that there's something wrong with them, that they are bad. And the case is we all have our faults. We all have our downfalls. We all have our ups. And the positive things in our lives and the positive things that we are as human beings should really be something that we should be happy about. And if people can't appreciate it, then we need to find people who can appreciate us as who we are. I know a lot of people who say Christianity is against specific types of people. I'm going to say this. Christianity is against anything that's anti-Christian. And as long as you have God in your heart, doesn't matter what you think, believe, or who you are, what you do. As long as you trust in God, as long as you put your faith in God, as long as you put him first and want him in your life, you will find better. And those who are lost along the way sometimes can be in churches, sometimes can be at the pulpits. It's not about a denomination. It's not about throwing something on somebody. Now, I had a deep conversation with somebody I loved very much, which is why I had the deep conversation. They were unfortunately taken out of a public school for their own well-being and put into a private Catholic school. And it was ran by nuns. Now, there's nothing wrong with nuns, nothing. But in this system, the nuns did not use normal ways to enhance their students wanting to learn something better or to learn what it is that they're trying to teach them as a whole. And that became very, very difficult for the kids to even pass their grades because they felt like God was being pushed on them and shoved on them and that they had to do this, otherwise they're going to go to hell. And I sat there and I apologized. It wasn't my apology to give, but he deserved it. There was no reason on this earth that God was shoved down his throat every day. It wasn't fair to him. He ended up very bitter. He actually ended up being atheist for a while. He didn't want to believe in God because if there was a God, then why did he have to go through the things that he had went through and the hard times he had went through? And my heart broke because these are things that we should see from the beginning that he is there even through all of the dark times in life. At the end, he's there. And he really does love us. So I did apologize to him and said, it's not right. It wasn't right that they did that. I mean, I went through a Catholic CCD and classes, and I can tell you that I even felt violated in some senses. It's not that I was opening my heart or my life to God. It felt like I had to open my life and serve the priest and his nuns rather than God. And that's not how it is. God is always above everything, and saying 6 Hail Marys or whatever is not gonna take your sin away. There's only one thing that takes your sin away, and that's asking for forgiveness. In the Bible, it teaches you that the first prayer that God hears from a sinner is the prayer of repentance, and a lot of people don't really understand that. That also goes with the same thing of being born again. And Jesus said very clearly, you have to be born again. And most people don't understand what born again means. It means opening up your heart to God, wanting to follow his ways, seeing the error of your ways, thinking about the things we've done and say, oh, okay, yeah, that wasn't nice. I'm not going to do that again. I have to find a different way to deal with this. Or I'm sorry that I did that. I shouldn't have done it. I'm sorry if I hurt people. I'm sorry if I hurt God himself. And I want to be something better. That in itself makes the world totally different. People do not hate God. And at some point, if you live your life well enough and with enough love, people will see that and they will know that God is a God of love, and that everybody that he sends into our lives, there's a reason for, there's a justification for. And even if it's through the hardest times, it's because we needed a lesson somewhere. We needed to learn how to stop fighting and to start learning and to start accepting and to start hearing, to start following the right direction. Due to all the things that had happened, they had such a hard time even wanting to talk about God. And for every right, I mean, it really was very severe on their end. I know, I saw them go through it. But I also know that God listens always. He's always there 24/7. He doesn't leave us. When we're seemingly in this hole in life or this tunnel, you can think of it as a tunnel. Each lesson we learn is like a tunnel. Sometimes when we go into it, it seems so dark. And sometimes we can't even see to find our way out. But eventually, as we keep walking and walking, eventually, light is at the end of that tunnel. And better things do come. We may not understand the reasons for things, but there is a reason. A lot of people had badmouth God because of this corona disease. And I have to say, I cannot understand why people would be so angry and say such mean things. But here's the thing. God, and if you truly believe, offers protection. And sometimes it's our time to go. Whether we like it or not, it is our time to go. And how we go, is up to God, not up to us. It's up to God. So accepting the fact that we lose those that we love doesn't mean we completely lose them. We just lose them here. And that means that here's my philosophy, I guess you would say, that I've been, kind of, I don't know, I kind of made it as a lesson plan when other people ask questions. If today I had passed away and tomorrow I would have gotten into a car accident by not doing something, maybe even playing on a phone or something very, very, and ended up hurting someone that still has such a very deep and long time left that they would have done good things with. Me coming out of this world today would have saved that. Or in the long run, you could think of it as knowing what health problems I have now. It was God's way of making sure it ended, or so that I didn't get Alzheimer's or I didn't get cancer. We don't know what the ultimate plan is, but we know there's a plan. There is a reason. And sometimes our reasons aren't God's reasons. And sometimes we don't think on his level. So if we get so mad and so hung up on who we lose instead of who we then gain after in our lives, we forget a lot and we aren't as grateful. I know I've lost people in my life. There was one person especially that I had met randomly playing a game, and the whole time during 2 weeks that my mom was dying and in the hospital. She had had a severe stroke and she was dying in the hospital. I was there 24/7. I came home for maybe an hour, took a shower, threw stuff in the wash, and left. And I left my son to have to come home and clean stuff up or to let the dog out, feed the cats, do whatever. And there was nights that he spent sleeping on the floor of the hospital while I slept on a chair in the hospital holding my mom's hand. They even were so nice, they opened up another wing room for my siblings and their children so that they had a room to sleep in as well, because they lived in a few states away and they needed a place to stay. And they didn't really want to leave her while they were there. And they came and went about 2 or 3 different times. But I was there through the week and they came on the weekend. So long story short, it was some of the darkest times of my life. I sat there listening to Christmas music with her because that was some of her favorite. And I find it hard still today to even hear Christmas music because it's a hard thing. Once you've listened to it for 2 weeks straight, knowing it's just a hard thing. And this person gave her heart and time to talk to me and to let me know and lift me up, me, rather than me lifting her up. She was lifting me up and telling me, you're doing the right thing. It's okay. She's going to a better place. She's not in pain. They're giving her enough medicine. She's not in pain. And it took a lot. And it was beautiful. And it was kind. And it was loving. And it was giving. And it was selfless of them. I was up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and they would still talk to me. And to this day, they are still severely close to me and like a sister to me, because now when she needs me, I'm there to lift her up. I'm there to make her smile. And that's the one thing I like to do. I don't like to just lift somebody up and make them feel better. I like to make them smile and laugh and know that, hey, you're doing good, and it's nice to feel like I've made somebody else smile and laugh. And that's a positive thing. So throughout some of the hardest times, I'm now there. And I think we kind of lifted each other up because it was at the same time that one of her best friends had passed away. It was very difficult. So when we're in our darkest hours, we're never alone. And if we're willing to open up, even to things that we wouldn't have normally opened to, or open our lives a little bit to somebody that we wouldn't have otherwise given time to, it's amazing what you find. I found somebody, now mind you, I had gotten so used to the different, I guess, denominations of churches, and I really had a dark sense of what a pastor or a priest or a preacher was, because most that I had dealt with was either hostile, a little bit uppity, snotty, some were a little bit rude, some were judgmental, some always made you feel like you were less than others, based on money status. And some just didn't seem like they really got it, or like they really knew God. And that bothered me. So when I ran across the same pastor that was one that had baptized my son, you cannot be in the room with him for 5 minutes without knowing he is a child of God. He's so happy, he smiles. And it's not just that, you can feel it. What he says is the human idea with the God's love attached, and the answer to the questions that go through our minds that we tend to overlook. And the fact that I was able to sit there and have a wonderful conversation with a man that was absolutely a child of God, you could tell. It was the first time in a very long time that I actually started to respect clergymen again. Because up until then, it had felt like we were absolutely positively, or at least I was absolutely positively never going to want to belong to a church. Because my faith isn't in a church, it's in God. I don't have to stand before people to be accepted. I have to stand before God to be accepted. I don't need somebody else to tell me, oh, okay, to enter our church, you need to be a member, and we need to make sure that you do enough and answer our questions and our board so that you are a member. I'm not your member, I'm God's. And I think human beings forget that on a very big basis. Now, fear is one of the biggest things that we go through in life. And in the situation that we're going through right now, fear is huge. You go outside and you're afraid. You need groceries and you get afraid. You need medications and you get afraid. No matter what you do, you seem to feel the fear and the question. When you look at others, the fear of, do they have it and they just don't know? Or maybe they do know. There's fear. And that fear can be very, very hard. So I want to read you a couple things and explain that in order to understand, sometimes you have to stop trying to think of a high opinion and start thinking rationally like a human being. I'll try to explain what that means. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Now, to start off with, we fear because we are afraid of the unknowns. We get afraid because in a situation like this, we don't know who has it or who doesn't, even if it's our son, daughter, child, whatever. So to know that God's with you no matter where you go, you don't have to worry. And when you put your faith in him, you don't have to fear it. Doesn't mean everything's going to be great all the time. But if something happens, it's for a reason. And to know that. He says, I will strengthen you and I will help you. Absolutely. He does that on a daily basis. Every day that we get up out of bed is a day that we have strength. Every day that we get up out of bed is a day in which he has helped us and will help us through it. He gives us strength for the day in which we are in. It doesn't matter about tomorrow, but today, he gives us the strength for today. Enough to get through the hard things, to get through the frustration or the upset or the mental issues that we struggle with, especially with all this, just the mentality of this whole. And he says, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. See, there's no imperfections in God. And the fact that he upholds us means that he will keep us going to the day in which we live. And the day in which we are going through, it doesn't matter as sad as the day might be. And at the end of it, he will still keep us going. John 1 teaches us, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. That means, like, let's say, for instance, marriage. A lot of people marry, and all of a sudden there's jealousies. There's jealousies that they're at work too much. There's jealousies that they have too many friends. There are jealousies that maybe these friends are maybe too friendly. But the truth is, unless you love that person perfect enough, unless you love them deeply enough, you won't have fears. There won't be anything to fear in the first place, because you're not letting the jealousy or the questions that try to get into your mind stop you from having a better relationship and to keep a better relationship going forward. And sometimes we get lost along the way because we get so scared that, oh, maybe they like somebody else, or maybe they're cheating on us. That is a tendency in which pushes us from them. It doesn't bring us to them. It pushes us from somebody. Now, for some people, they say a little bit of jealousy kind of makes you feel wanted. Okay. But you don't want somebody that every time you walk out that door, you have to text them. You have to text them when you leave work, text when you go to the gas station, text whatever, FaceTime. You don't want to have to be controlled 24/7. You want to be able to go to work, do what you want to do, come home, be loyal, be faithful, be loving to each other, be able to go out, have fun with friends every once in a while, not all the time, every once in a while, just so that you can release whatever frustrations you have. So you're not releasing it on your spouse, you're just releasing it. And John 1 continues that, for fear has to do with punishment. And whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Now, fear is punishment. It's true. You feel like you're not good enough. That's a punishment. That's a fault that you put on yourself or that you drag onto yourself. And it becomes a punishment in what you give somebody else, which means you really don't love them to the point that is a pure love. It's I want to own you. You're mine. I'm going to treat you the way I want to treat you because I don't want you to do to me what somebody else did or what I'm afraid you're going to do. It's not love. It's control. And control is something that is very dangerous in any relationship. Control is the number one reason why there's divorces. It is the number one reason why children often are taken by CDC because of abuse. Control is one of those things where you feel so stuck and glued, and it can cause depression, anxieties, fears of oneself, self-loathe. It can take somebody who's so sweet and so fun and happy and make them a very sad, miserable mess. Trust me, I know. I've been there, I'm there. I get it. And if you're not there, you will not understand it until you do. Trust me, if somebody loves you, they do not punish you with their fears. They don't punish you with saying, I love you, but you need to belong to me. That is not a thing. When you're married, you are two, and those two become one. So if you're punishing one, you're punishing yourself. It's true. Fact. And that's exactly what God tries to teach us. Here's one that I love. It's Psalm 34:4. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. I love that. I have a Bible in which I go through that I've read front to back. That's the only way you can really truly understand. You can't just read the Bible and get one little piece out of it and know what the whole intent of the passage is and the whole education of what the passage is. So to read one little spot and try to turn it or twist it so that it makes it seem like that's what it's supposed to say is very faulted. And it's led to a lot of people's disbelief in things. What they say that is actually against what the actual passage was trying to say. And it's also against humanity of what God is trying to teach us. If we don't know what we're talking about, and we don't know what the Bible says from A to Z, and we're not trying to learn what the Bible says from A to Z, we're teaching people the wrong things. We're judging people. We're making them feel bad because we use some little piece of passage to try to worm our way in to do what we want to do. It's not the way it goes. Read the passages front to back. And when you don't know, ask God for the answers. Trust me, he listens, he knows. Proverbs 29:25 teaches us that it says, the fear of man lays a snare, which means like a trap. So the fear of man itself is a trap, which is true. It takes you to a dark place. It takes you to a very, very, very scary place where when people get that far, sometimes they don't come back from it. It's like, I hate to compare it to something, but It's like being bullied your entire life and then wanting to take revenge on them. It's very, very hard. You get caught in this little space that is very tricky to try to make yourself feel better. But how can you feel better if people are pushing you down? If we are afraid of something or afraid of someone and we have to face them constantly, it brings us to a very, very scary spot. A lot of bad things happen when you are in that spot. And that's when you choose to be above it or you choose to slide down that slippery slope. So again, the fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. Now, I'm going to say this. We are safe when we know that God has our back. But we as human beings are also doers of God's word. And they are also his children. We are supposed to do what we can to help those who are in a place where they're hurting or afraid and to make them feel some sense of security, some sense of safety, some sense of peace, to know, hey, it's okay. I'm here with you. Hey, that person's bugging you. Okay, I'm here with you. If I see it, I'm gonna help you out. This is the mentality in which human beings should have with each other. It shouldn't be a one person solitude issue. We know when somebody's not being treated right. And we know when we need to step in and say, hey, I'm here. I have been lucky at my darkest times. Even though I am a born again Christian, I have my times too. And at my darkest times, I was given 4 different people who said, you need anything, you call me. You ever feel sad, you call me. I'll give you my number. And these are people. These are people who have lives every day. These are people who do things out of kindness. One was even my doctor, because that's how much he cared. And he knew what I was going through. He knew how long the process of it was and how I was doing okay and staying strong to slowly starting to digress. And my health issues were starting to cause even bigger problems. Arguments between other people in my life that are no longer a part of my life began a bigger problem because I didn't know how to get rid of it. And sometimes you have to untie binds and bonds and let people go in order to save yourself and to keep yourself from falling. Now, I'm not saying that if it's something that you need to do in your life to jump ship, but sometimes in life you have to let go of the people that aren't there for you but are there for themselves. Sometimes you have to let go of bonds because of what you knew they used to be years ago, but no longer are. And to know that your mental state, your health, your life itself is on a better path when they're not there, that tells you that that is time to let somebody go. And it's time to let them go their way and for you to go your way. It's like a fork in the road. Now, you know, you can either go, still be sad and miserable, or choose to fight your own path, dig your own path. And yeah, it hurts and it's rough at first, but eventually you dig your own path. And honestly, There's things you miss about certain people, but the missing them isn't as much as being happy in the day you're in now. Because today is the day in which I need to worry about. Tomorrow's the day in which I have to think about for my life, my son's life, for my happiness, what my future is going to be, not somebody else's. So fear ensnares us into places we shouldn't be stuck. And it's up to us to either cut those strings or to trust that God has a reason for it. And if that means sticking with it and finding the reason that you're in this situation, or if it means sometimes you just got to let something go, you really need to sit and think about it. Because with fear, you're not going to go too far. But trust is a huge thing. And it's a huge thing in all relationships, not just with the people that you love, but with God Himself. Trust is a huge thing. And if you can trust your mom that she's not going to be mean to you and that she's going to love you no matter what, then you need to trust that God is the same way. He's above us. He's way, way above us. He loves us unconditionally. There is nothing anybody can do. Nothing. And I don't care what anyone else tells you. There's nothing you can possibly do that will ever make Him not love you. You're a part of who He is and what He created. And I can't think of any more love than that. Having my son and putting him in my arms, I can't think of anything more loving than to know this is a piece of me. And you are a piece of God. You are a piece of His soul in which He has made you and given you a soul of your own and made in His image. He loves you unconditional. Even if other people are conditional, He's unconditional. So look to God. So considering that was my son beeping me, wanting to tell me probably good night, I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to say for tonight, think about it deep and hard, because this is so chaotic right now. You have to give it a little bit of trust that things are definitely going to get better at some point. But not just that sometimes in our lives we have to give a little bit of trust, or if we start to fear things, we need to realize what's making us afraid, or when to step in for somebody else who's afraid of something to help them out. So God bless you guys, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.